Filmed in front of a live studio audience, it's the Dicebreaker podcast with your host, Matt Jarvis.
Hey! Wait, I just realised that if I'm the host, I'm like clapping myself. So
Clap yourself, Matt. Do it.
Love yourself.
You deserve it.
I do.
Yeah.
I listen to that BTS song. Like it
That's
gives me the warm feelings
definitely
inside.
what I was referencing.
Love yourself. Yeah. Hello.
Oh, right.
Welcome. It's Friday.
It is.
It's the Dicebreaker podcast. It's live. Unless you're listening on catch up, in which case
It's not.
It was live. We're here to talk about board games and tabletop RPGs and all kinds of things that you find on a table and that you can play. I'm Matt Jarvis. Thank you for the intro, Wheels. I'm joined this week once again by two wonderful members of the Dicebreaker team, Liv Kennedy.
Hello, it's me
doing?
again this week. Hi. Yes, that's it.
All good. All right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
We love a compliment queen.
And of course, Michael Wheels Whelan.
How's it going, folks? It's me, Michael Wheels Whelan, again.
Again,
what I
can't get
said.
rid of him.
Yeah, I know, but it's all about. It's not about the idea; it's about the execution, Liv. And
All right, okay, fine. Let me try again. Hello, it's me, Liv Kennedy.
Oh yeah, I like that.
A little bit of a Macho Man Randy Savage tone for that one. Love it. Fantastic.
Coming in strong.
Thank you.
We should all get our own entrance music for this podcast. I feel we've got entrance music for the podcast itself. Now we just need entrance music for each of us individually.
Can you imagine? What would be your wrestling walkout music, Matt?
I feel like mine would unfortunately probably be halfway between the Undertaker's "Dead Man Walking" ringing bell, and then John Cena's "The Time Is Now," and very bad kind of rap.
Is that?
You get to choose, right?
Yeah, but I feel like
You're
that's
not forced to have
unfortunately.
anything.
that's kind of the energy I give off.
Okay.
Is
Is that your
very
gimmick? I'm
very poor
tired.
rap, and also just kind of sullen goth child.
Love
Okay,
that for you.
Liv, we're coming around to you next. What would be your entrance music? What are you walking into? What are you coming down the ramp?
I've been trying to think of something the entire time you were talking about being a dead man walking, but I could. I think it would be something way too cutesy to be threatening, maybe "Smile" by Lily Allen or something, and then come in and whack somebody over the head with a chair.
That's good. Would you kind of go the Bailey route of having a wacky waving inflatable arm tube man?
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Yes.
Wacky flailing inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Or if they're an option, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean they're there. Yeah.
This is wrestling we're talking about. You can do anything.
Yeah.
There's no budget.
I want to not be able to see for wacky waving flailing inflatable arm flailing tube man. If that's
just bursting through the trees.
Yeah, it's
With
a
that
sea
style.
of wacky. I'm not going to do it again, but it's a sea of them.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. There you go.
Wheels. What are you coming in on?
I don't know if it's just because of yesterday's live stream, but I think I want Even Flow by Pearl Jam. Even Flow. It's also just because I've been watching CM Punk on the last Dynamite, so he's Cult of Personality is such a fantastic walkout.
It is a good entrance theme,
and
yeah,
I feel like Even Flow's got a similar vibe without just co-opting that, Yeah. Alternatively, it's something with the word wheels in it, which I can't think of anything.
You could go the Triple H route and just come down on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Biker Taker used to be on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And there was the year of WrestleMania where it was sponsored by Terminator Genesis or something.
Yes.
And Triple H came out on a god awful looking robot float thing made of skulls.
Triple H is one of the most embarrassing men in all of entertainment, I think.
Love that. All I can think of with a lyric with wheels in it, all I could think of was just "Born to be wheels."
That's good. I was thinking of the Wheels on the Bus, which is probably not.
That's what the chat have gone. They've said rock and roll version of Wheels on the Bus.
Yeah.
That's
wheels on the bus go round and round. My favorite thing of wrestlers is when you hear because Big Show is now part of AEW, just as Paul White. He's a very, very bad commentator, but also like every now and again he'll do a match and you hear his walkout music and it is the most like dad rock thing in the entire world because like they haven't been cool for like 30 years. So it's like, I'm a dude walking around doing a wrestle and I'm really cool. And it's like, oh,
I like
God,
how
lads.
straightforward it is. I like, knowing what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to revise my answer. I want a character arc, please.
Okay.
So I start off with like a really cutesy thing,
Yeah.
and then eventually, after like so like a heel has gone too far, it's instead it is live and let die.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I rate that.
Yeah.
Fell said Wheels actually comes out on a bus as my walkout. I think if I had some kind of Mad Max style war bus, I'd be very into that. But yeah, so there we go. That's us.
There we go. There's our intro screen. Yeah. We're here. We're entering down the ramp. We're about to enter the ring and like hit each other over the head with large board games.
That's right.
That cost many, many pounds or dollars.
This is our gimmick match. We have to do it over a video call.
I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the history of wrestling they have fought with copies of board games or smashed something over someone's head.
Oh my God, look out. Here comes Descent Legends of the Dark. Oh no.
I mean, if you're looking to take someone out, Descent Legends of the Dark is... Yeah, it's like one step up from a steel chair.
Famously, one of our opening questions when we hire a new staff member is, what is the most dangerous board game weapon? A lot of people say D4s, the caltrops.
Yeah.
Gloomhaven gets brought up a lot as well.
Gloomhaven, yeah.
We will see what our new hire has to say.
Yes, which will be soon.
Teaser.
But before we get to that, let's dive in with what we've been up to this past week. Let's kick it round, Liv. Let's kick off with you this week.
Okay.
Playing what you've been doing.
All right, then. I'm gonna go in the order that I have here because it'll lead into you, Matt. You're going next, Matt. I've decided.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
I have stuff I need to discuss with Matt.
Well, no, because don't discuss it too hard because we've got content. We've got content.
We do have content.
We do have content.
We promise. We've got content.
It's somewhere around here.
Hang us upside down and shake us till the content falls out.
So this week I have not been doing much. I've been sleeping most of the time, but also I have been playing Blood Bowl 3 that Wheels played on the channel last week.
Yeah. Liv, we've just left a glaring omission on our what have we played this week sheet that I'm just going to write in all caps. Because we literally filmed it on Tuesday, but that's fine. Yeah, we can talk about that. All right, carry on.
Level 3.
Cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna put it here with me as
we
well.
don't both have to talk about it. Well, we can
No,
also
I
just
mean,
talk
I
about it in
wanna.
tandem. Yeah.
Actually, okay. Look, I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I got this, guys. Blood Bowl 3, the app that is in alpha, beta.
Beta, I think.
Yeah, I
believe it's a limited
closed
beta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you pre-ordered it or if you are pressed, like we are.
Cool. We're pressed.
We're pressed for time, Liv. So let's crack on.
Sorry, I'm going. That's a lie. Okay. Blood Bowl 3. I've been playing. It's good. It's difficult. I don't get it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
At least you did the tutorial.
I did the tutorial, yes. So I understand most of it. I know how to make the move and do mostly what I want. But like, I think maybe I actually discussed this last week. I might have done. But I played more of it now, so I'll keep this brief. It's hard. I switched over from. Oh yeah, I spoke about the fancy boys.
Yes, the fancy boys. Yeah.
My fancy boys. I've moved away from the fancy boys to the big boys now, which are like the orc team. And they are slightly better, but like I was like, I'm gonna be able to knock down everyone, and then like this elf team just ran straight past me to the end zone, and I was like, I wasn't able to do that when I was a fancy boy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the balance you got to have. This is why I think Skaven are really good fashion, because they've got the rat ogres, which are the big boys, right? You've obviously got super speedy boys because they're Skaven, but then they've got like a mechanical ball launcher unit as well, which is really good at like throwing. So like they've got like a good mix, you know.
I'm terrible at Skaven in Blood Bowl. I just get crushed.
They're not.
But I think that's because my play tactic is to just run into the wall and hope that I go through it. And with small squishy rats, that's not a good idea.
See, I did beat the Blood Bowl 2 like campaign, so like I know how to play Blood Bowl to at least some degree. But yeah, I would never claim to be good at it, and I don't know if it's just because the rules have changed a little bit or what, but Blood Bowl 3 had me really confused.
Yeah, I think the new one's based on second season edition, which was the one that came out in 2020, whereas Blood Bowl 2 was based on like way back, not even the edition before that, not even the revised edition from like 2016.
When they had
it came
the
out
red and black lumberjack with the hat to match.
I don't know.
Come on, Matt. I've used that joke on every member of the team. I thought at least you would get it. You said way back. No?
No.
Juicy?
No,
By Biggie? No? No? All right then. Fine.
I mean, maybe the problem's you, Wheels.
Maybe it is. maybe my taste is just too elite for this team.
I don't think that's the case.
By liking one of the most popular hip hop songs of all time.
Yeah, no, I've been playing that. That's good. I have also been so everyone, I have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes will hyperfocus for a prolonged period of time. And this hyperfocus is hyperfocused on 7 Days to Die, which is a videogamy.
I think crafting like survival games are like purpose built for people with ADHD, honestly.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it really is. No, it's just like it's basically Minecraft, but it's a zombie apocalypse, and you have so zombies are going around everywhere, and then past 10 o'clock at night, then the zombies get a little bit feral, and they run and they do more damage, and they could chase after you and stuff like that. So you got to be a bit more careful past 10 o'clock. And then on the 7th day, there's a horde of zombies that attack you, and it's really difficult, and you have to build a base.
7 Days to Die.
Exactly.
Right.
This is the title.
Is it like a cycle, or is it a set 7 days?
It's a cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, so 7 days, then 14, then 21, blah blah. Yeah, and they get worse and worse. Like there's so much content on YouTube for 7 Days to Die where people are like, I'm on day 7,000 and here's the 7th reward. Yeah. And it's just like so much going on. But
here's a question for you, Liv, because yeah. I genuinely absolutely love these games. Like these are my crack. But like to what degree do the zombie hordes destroy your base every 7 days?
So here's the thing, Wheels, right? It depends on what base you make.
Okay.
So when I first started playing this game, which I played it nonstop like 6 months ago, then left it for like the last 6 months and then came back to it now. I was like building bases that I was hoping I had like enough like wood that the zombies wouldn't be able to like get through, penetrate, and get into the place I was just hiding, curled up in a ball. So that wasn't the best idea. Then I went underground. Zombies could dig. Turns out they could dig real fast. So they just dug underneath and then got me while I was curled up in a ball. That
sounds terrifying.
It is.
Like zombies were bad enough, but they, you could at least lock them outside and kind of just let them like bump into the walls or whatever.
I remember because I played Minecraft from like when it was first a thing, and I remember when they first added the ability for zombies to break your doors, and it was like, and I was like, "What's happening?" Because I hadn't read the patch notes or something.
But yeah, no, it's genuinely really anxiety inducing. Like I remember. Yeah, the last time I played it, I think that's part of why I was like, I can't do this anymore, because it was just me on the 7th day of just being like, they're coming. Oh my god. So this time around, I've done more research, and what the zombies are programmed with in a specific way.
Okay.
And they're always looking for a path to get to you.
Right.
So if you give them a path to get to you, but you prevent them from getting to you, they're going to just keep running up that path.
Yeah, sort of like a balloons situation. you know, like a tower defense game.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
I'm glad we have such a shared terminology.
Yeah, we do, yeah, no, just like balloons. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just like balloons. You know,
TD
you
and
blow 'em up,
balloons
they
are
pop.
Will's 2 areas of expertise.
So the zombies be running basically, and then they come up, and then I use a turret to knock them off the edge, and then they come up again, and I shoot them in the face if they get too far, in the game. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing at the moment, and that's fun. Apart from that, also, yeah, okay, yeah, fine. Okay, I'm gonna go to you, Matt. As I said, I'm a woman of my word. Shall we discuss the phenomenon that is Too Hot to Handle season 3?
Yes, we should, but not too much, because
Not
we're
too
planning
much.
to discuss it in a little bit more detail for a
Do they
members
not
video.
call it
We're going to go
3
through some
hot,
of our
3
favorite
handle?
trash.
No, it's not 3 off 3 handle.
It's
not
what's the
too
third
fast,
fast?
too handle.
Yeah, what's the third fast? Is that Tokyo Drift?
I think that's Tokyo Drift.
I
Too
can't.
Do
hot.
you
think
really
of,
want to know if they touch each other in Tokyo?
Liv, I don't know about you. I finished the season. We won't I won't drop any spoilers.
Well,
Yes.
we should probably say these two are planning. No, and me as well. Sorry.
Yeah,
we're
and you.
planning to do a trash TV roundtable for Dicebreaker Plus members. So
Yep.
if that sounds
That's
like
cool.
it's part of your bag, then look out for that, because that will be coming soon.
If
Yeah,
you've listened to
there's-
the podcast before, you might remember that Liv and I have a very shared passion for just
Yeah.
terrible, great terrible
Mhm.
reality TV. Which I would say that Too Hot to Handle is right up there with both the
peak.
trashiest, but also some of the most fantastic television you'll ever watch.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's so compelling.
It is. It's why do I care about these relationships so much?
I know.
Why do I care about their character arcs within
Yeah,
this
and it's
ridiculous show?
So I don't want to give any spoilers, but Matt, you know when there was the return?
Yes,
Yeah. That I was
like Twin Peaks. Yes, the return.
yeah. That blew my mind. But yeah, no, no, there's a lot of good stuff in Too Hot to Handle season 3. And I think that you should watch it and then, join in on the trash talk if you're a Dicebreaker Plus member.
Yeah, for those who aren't super familiar, so quickly, Too Hot to Handle is kind of like Love Island in reverse. In the people are
It's
dropped
awful.
onto an island, and they are the most sexed up
Mhm.
I love that you say
horny
dropped
kind
onto
of,
an island like it's Fortnite.
Well, they think they're there for a show called Pleasure Island, and they're basically yeah, we're all gonna get down and day, and then they flip it, and there's an antagonistic Siri robot thing called Lana that then basically is okay, no having sex, no kissing,
canoodling.
no heavy petting, none of that. Keep your hands off each other. You're gonna It's the most ridiculous high
It's
concept
absurd.
thing where it's you're going to learn how to have proper relationships with each other by being fined
Yeah.
if you touch it. They start with an amount of money, which I will say on this series, they're we've doubled it this series, and it's that's very fortuitous, given that they just seem to have the most Too Hot to Handle contestants ever.
Yeah, I don't think it could, but they've doubled all of the fines as well.
Yeah,
so it's a difference.
Yeah, it's just the numbers are bigger.
Well, I
it's
guess
like
the
scaling in
stakes are
Yu-Gi-Oh!
higher, I
They
think
just
is
add
the point.
extra zeros to
Yes.
the end of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there are so many similarities between Too Hot to Handle season 3 and Yu-Gi-Oh!
So I haven't watched any Too Hot to Handle, but I have watched a YouTube video essay about the sociological studies of it.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
very predictable.
There's a channel called We're in Hell, who is this
Yeah.
left-wing Canadian YouTuber who's very good. But he does a video on, because he loves sociologically deconstructing reality TV shows. He does a fantastic one on I think it's called Stay Here, which is on Netflix, which is one of those property makeover shows, but the idea is that it's not someone's house, they're just making it into an Airbnb, and it is the most horrendous late capitalism awful just mess you've ever seen. But he does a really good video on surveillance culture and why is there an AI in this like weird sex show?
Everyone
it's great.
seems to suspend disbelief in a way that is so weirdly compelling. Like everyone is absolutely like they play it straight with this light up like lava lamp
It's
thing.
wrestling.
But the way it presents itself as being this like reality show of like they have no idea what's going on, like they've never heard of this show.
No,
surely
they have no idea
this
what they're
point,
in for.
they know what
their
they're
excuse
in for.
this time was that they were like, "Oh, we filmed this the day after the last season, so nobody would have seen it."
The day after. Jesus.
We clean the sheets.
We're just shipping out horny teens every 5 days.
But you've also never seen, as someone that has like quite deep-rooted anxiety, I just cannot relate to people who are so confident about themselves. They will introduce themselves as being like, yes, I am incredibly popular. No one can resist me. And just like absolutely play it straight, like no kind of self-deprecating punchline to that. Just like,
I think
yes,
it's not
I
confidence
am
though. It's like self-delusion. That's the problem.
It's wild.
Yeah, there's a point where it's just like, oh, are you okay?
There is a moment in the second episode where one of the contestants does something, and you see it getting to this point, and they discuss what they're about to do, which is like a kind of like a grand-ish gesture.
Yeah,
and it is so excruciating to watch play out moment by moment as you know what's about to happen.
Yeah, it's just like a car getting closer and closer, and you're like, I gotta move, but I can't look away from it.
And then the reaction from the other person is just you genuinely couldn't write like comedy television better. And it is just I just felt my own like bodily shell collapsing in on itself, wanting to retreat away from the screen.
It was bad stuff. Like it was good stuff, but it was bad stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But the best part about that is that this I was telling Wills about this earlier. This particular person, they kept trying this kind of grand gesture, like really lovey-dovey stuff with them. They were like, I don't want that. Why do you think I want that?
Yeah, there are a number of people in there who are like openly manipulative, and it's like you're being filmed, right? Like that this is like sociopathic behavior on the record now.
So this is one of the things I want to talk about because I recently finished 3 seasons worth of Selling Sunset, which again awful, by which I mean great. Where this is like. It's like 20 to 30 something like Botoxed up supermodel like blonde women who work in this real estate agency in LA selling $1 billion properties or whatever, and it's just oh god, it makes you lose all faith in like any kind of space of humanity that you can think of. But it's also like if you look at the people outside of the show and how they talk about it and stuff. There's so many moments where you're just like, you're on camera, right? But it's like, they do. They know they're on camera. It's why they're doing this. So like one of the like big villains of the show is very open about the fact that she was just like, well, yeah, I know what the show needed and I know what was going to make me most famous, so I did that. And it was just like, sure, but yeah, let's save some of this chat for.
Let's save some of this. There's much to say, but yes, if you enjoyed brilliant trash, yes, go watch.
Exactly.
Too Hot and Selling Sunset.
Join Dicebreaker Plus because that's where it'll be. It's good stuff on there.
Join button below this video if you're watching on YouTube, and you will find some details about what you get and how much it costs.
Yes, I've got one last thing that I've been watching recently that is like really cool. It's a YouTube channel called Cruel World Happy Mind, which is literally, it sounds like it doesn't sound like a video essay channel, but it is a video essay channel. And it like basically it's a researcher. She goes through like how like the downfall of a bunch of like famous social influencers. And it's just like, oh, cool. I've heard of these people, and I know that they are not very good people, but I don't know why. So thank you for letting me know what happened there.
Yeah.
And like these videos are like over an hour long each. So if you're looking for like a long length,
there's this wild thing of like on YouTube. I think it's becoming more and more common for people to be almost like internet historians.
Yeah.
And it's something that actual historians like aren't really bothering with, despite the fact that the internet is now getting old enough that that it's a valid pursuit of information to try and like categorize and like understand what happened and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just strange that at some point in the future, like things that happened on the internet that only people who are terminally online will understand are going to be like really important. Things like QAnon and like all these like monumental events that aren't just really recorded as much in like mainstream media and like educational programs and stuff. I think there has to be a turning point at some point where it's just like, who is actually talking about this stuff other than just YouTubers?
It's so wild to me that there's like a subculture beneath like the public news that is still news itself, but just so like, and it's still very widely known, but just it's not accepted as the norm. I don't know. It's weird.
A brief tangent, jumping back to our TV talk. Stephen that says, considering I met my now husband via Deal or No Deal fandom, I don't think I can judge their taste in TV, which is an incredible thing.
Stephen,
I would love to know about the Deal or No Deal fandom.
I would love to know how many Knoll shirts you've got at home. Is that the same as like wearing like a football shirt for your favorite team? What's your favorite Knoll shirt and how often do you rock it?
Can I ask you a question, Stephen, if you are still in the chat? So my theory of deal or no deal is that none of it matters. It all depends on what you choose and what the last box is, right? Is that how it works?
Well, no, the point is like it's basically a push your luck game where it's like the more boxes you reveal, the odds of you having something really good in your box go up or down. So you have to pick the ultimate point where it is worth as much as it could be.
And you have to barter with
the that's the gimmick.
But ultimately, no.
But sure, Liv.
Isn't it the thing where if you accept the first offer, that can be often just the best, like average?
A lot of the time,
price.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because like,
but there's also, isn't there the logic puzzle about there are two doors? Do you swap, or like do you swap your door, or do you swap your gift? And it's always better to stay with the gift you have.
That
for some logical reason that people.
But no, like I think like mathematically it is, but when it comes to like real normal human sense, it doesn't actually make any difference. I think that's the annoying thing, because it's like, oh yeah, but now you have a 50% chance. It's like, yeah, but I've already selected from that 50% chance. It doesn't make any difference. But yeah, anyway.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And also David Leonard Flanagan says, I've been watching videos as well, Liv. They're really interesting. They are really good. They're like Krill World, Happy Mind. Check her out. She's cool.
Matt, you played Red Dead 2 to completion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep hearing Cruel World, I'm moving on in my head. Right. So is that all you've got for this week, Liv?
Yeah, sure.
Matt, would you like to go next?
Sure, yeah, I'll lead on. Given that we tangented somewhat with Too Hot to Handle.
I'm desperately pulling us back onto the tracks.
To be honest, well, good luck, because I haven't actually played very much this week because I've been moving house, and therefore most of my games have been packed in various boxes and unable for me to access. What I have been playing, because I was on last week's podcast, is I've been playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. What? Which you may have seen Wheels playing on the channel. I also wrote about for the site. I think it's really good. Like, I've always been on the cusp of being into Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it plays into the fact that I like big robots and
you're the target market.
Kind of. Yeah. But I think one of the things that Master Duel has really made me appreciate is the way that it's all on the cards, for better and worse. In Magic, you have mana. In Pokemon, you have energy cards. You have to have like a resource to power along your cards. In Yu-Gi-Oh, the resource is the card itself. So if you have monsters out, you can, then tribute those monsters to summon bigger monsters and so on. But you can have spells and you can have traps, but you don't have like just a dedicated energy source for playing cards or for powering cards. It's all just there, which is part of what allows that game to become this ridiculous exercise in just building like a single turn combo that wipes everything out. Because you can chain together so many cards and so many effects that if you get the right amount of things lined up, you can then just be like, okay, you're gone. It's kind of like a delayed explosion. which, as the person who's most often on the receiving end of that delayed exposure, is kind of, I win very few games online, but it's kind of fascinating to watch people just absolutely obliterate me.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
I think this is why I don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, because that is literally like my least favorite thing about card games, where it's like the four things I need to happen have happened, and therefore it's impossible for you to win. It's like, okay, like I'd much rather games where it's like the dynamics are always shifting, and like you can never really truly tell who's on top.
Well, I think if you have two people who have equal skill, you can have that, because you have trap cards, and that's the kind of cool thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is you can have face down cards, and someone might try and execute a huge combo, but you might have the counter to it. It's why they're like, you've activated my trap card thing is such a big deal. But I do think that a lot of the game comes down to building your deck that way and kind of understanding it, which this app has actually let me do for the first time, because when I've played in the past, so much of my kind of headspace and like mental capacity is going on just remembering the rules, like remembering what order things happen in and how like you perform the various different summons, what a pendulum is, like all of that. But here, because that's kind of taken out of your hands, and the cards just like light up if you can use them, it becomes a much friendlier way of like, okay, I know I can do these four things, and then that will tell me if I can perform an extra action, or there's something in the graveyard I can use, or there's a trap card I can flip. So there's still a long way to go. Like I say, I get crushed in every online match, but actually I'm understanding it better than I've ever understood it before. And I really got to the point where I'm appreciating the people who are really good at that game. They are good for a reason, because they have built their deck to perform a certain thing. And when it works, it is like an incredible, display of like all the pieces coming together, like the Rube Goldberg machine kicking the ball so it falls in the bucket, except the bucket is like a 10-star dragon that you then buff 12 times, and it does like 54,000 damage.
I think I should probably give it a go, because I probably would enjoy it now that you've mentioned the fact that like it gives you a bit of a guide. Like it's not just like you have to figure this out all on your own. It kind of handholds you a little bit. So that does intrigue me, because I've always been in the same space of like I could be really into Yu-Gi-Oh if I really tried. And I think it was for a little bit when I was young.
There's always the risk, Liv.
It's just like what's going to take me over the edge.
You have to look after yourself in this kind of climate.
I know.
I do think it does a good job generally of introducing concepts. Sometimes it can be a little odd with the structure, where
I think the structure's really bad. Personally.
It will introduce some things, and then later on it will tell you how they work.
Yeah.
But like the broad strokes, it will kind of run you through, and then there is a bit of trial and error. But once you get into the solo campaigns, it kind of gives you a deck, and the structure of each chapter is like a very brief bit of normally like lore that I skip through and go, I don't really care about this.
No,
and then it'll be like a practice game, which is kind of like hey, learn as you go. We'll give you a couple of pop-ups, and then you duel for real, and kind of the training wheels are taken off. And then if you get through that, you unlock that deck, and so on. Yeah. So there is a structure. It can definitely at points be like weirdly like out of sync with how you would want to learn it. Like some things are introduced in a way that is logical, and other things are just like, how does this work? And then like 5 games down the line, it'll be like, oh, by the way, this is how this works.
I said I think on a previous, or maybe it was on the Let's Play or something like that, but like it literally feels like you're being taught by a human who keeps forgetting about things, and they're like, oh yeah, crap, sorry, I forgot to mention.
Yes. But despite that, I do think like it is a really good version of that game. Like I do think that it does a good job for the most part. Like I say, there are very iffy things, like I cover some of this in the article I wrote for the site. But I think where it really excels is presentation-wise. I think it is really, really strong. Like it's a fantastic looking digital card game. Like it looks way better than Magic Arena. Like the way the battlefields crack as you take damage, and you've got little companions at the side, and like when you summon the monsters, there's obviously like an animation for each. Like here's a ritual summon, like here's a pendulum summon, da da da. Like it comes alive through that. But also the way that it does, like it gives you a good kind of momentum, even if you are relatively new. You don't have to go and play online. Like the solo stuff actually does a nice job. Once you're past the initial finding your feet, which can be a little rocky at times, it does a nice job of just handing you stuff along, so it doesn't feel like because Magic Arena, you unlock, I think, the 5 starter decks. You do like a run with each, and then it's like, okay, off into ranked you go, like have fun. Here it leads you on a little bit more. There's a little bit more of the solo campaign side, and also I will say it's pretty generous with gems, and it's a free-to-play game. You can put real money into it. I've not put any real money into it yet, but I've always just had packs to open, and the pack opening is good. It's a really good pack open. Like there's like a thump, like a light rips across the screen and cuts the top of the pack off, and then just light pours out the top.
At this point, like, games spend more time fine-tuning the pack opening than they do anything else.
It's like if it's rainbow behind it, it's a certain kind of pack. It can be gold as well, and like when you flip over the cards, because you can flip them over just by running your mouse over them. The ones that are shiny, they glow and they wiggle a little longer. So all the kind of like, normal rarity cards flip over fine. And then the more kind of higher rarity ones wiggle for a bit and then flip. So it's like, it's very satisfying. But they give you packs all the time. That's the nice thing. It's like it doesn't, and you can break them down, unlike Magic Arena. You can break them down so you can then craft cards to build out certain decks.
Yeah, I think, isn't it? It kind of works like that, but a worse version, doesn't it, in Arena, where it's like, if you get a duplicate that you don't have any space for, then it becomes like a component or something like that. But it's not great. But I'm terrified of a future in which the people who make scratch cards team up with the people who make deck opening animations and make some kind of app dedicated to just like completely psychologically tormenting humans to spend money.
Like I say, I think it feels like one of the more, because all these digital card games have some kind of micro currency, like in-game currency. It is ultimately there for them to make money. Like, let's be clear, they're not being generous out of the goodness of their hearts or anything like that. It's a corporation looking to make money. But I do think Yu-Gi-Oh has been one of the better ones in terms of like, I don't feel compelled to put any money into it. Like I haven't actually, to be upfront, I was sent a code by Konami for some extra gems. I haven't even managed to put that in yet. And I've still opened dozens of packs and got the cards for the decks that I want to make and want to use. And it's felt like every few games I'm unlocking enough gems or getting enough gems to open at least one more pack. So it doesn't feel stingy. It doesn't feel like, the carrot is dangling way out in front and I'm having to play hours and hours to get a single pack of cards. It does feel more kind of like it's easing you into it a little bit. And maybe that's because they then hope you'll get into Yu-Gi-Oh for real and you'll go out and spend £4 a pack on actual cards. I think they're after money.
It's also worth noting that they obviously know that things like Arena are their biggest like competitors right now. So straight out the gate, I don't know if that is a useful comparison. Like when let's leave it like a year or so when they've got like a confirmed audience and then see how generous they are. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sometimes it's like, are you doing this just because you just launched and you're trying to build up the hype, or is this actually you could be your model sort of thing?
True.
But in terms of early impressions, like I say, there are definitely parts that need like some work. Like the deck catalog in concept is good because you've got a database of different decks made by people, but those decks, when you view them, are really hard to sort through. You can kind of search by tags or keywords, but if, for instance, you're looking for a particular deck, they like people can't give them names and can't give them descriptions. So, I mean, maybe people who are into Yu-Gi-Oh in a big way don't need that. But for me, looking at a wall of decks, it was like, which one of these do I pick? Like I would like a pre-made deck. That seems like a good thing to have. But I have no idea how to differentiate between these hundreds of decks.
Yeah.
I think there could be some better work there.
The kettle on. Thanks for that. Sorry, we're just recording a podcast. Don't worry about it.
Let her have a cuppa.
You're not even having a cup of tea. You're just boiling nylon string.
Let her have a cup of nylon.
Let her have a cup of nylon. So what was I about to say? Yeah, no, sorry. With deck building, I tend to find that like I don't really like. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't really like using other people's decks because then it feels like half the game is kind of gone. You know. I like sort of one thing I did in Arena a lot. I haven't played Arena in literally like half a year, but one thing I did a lot in Arena was like I would play against people, and if I liked what they did, I would sort of work out. Like I built an Angel deck like that, where it's like I can see what you're doing. But I'm just going to try and figure that out myself rather than... Because the fun is, like, fine-tuning it and, like, finding the perfect formula sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I'm coming at that from the other side where it's like, I want to use a deck that someone else has built and then customize it to fit. Like, but for instance, I played against my friend. He just searched for the word Salaman Great, which is a particular type of card, put every card that had that word in it into a deck, crushed me every time. I cannot beat that deck. And again, I think it's kind of one of the nice things about Yu-Gi-Oh! As a card game is that you don't have to think about your mana ramp. You don't have to think about... You can just pick a load of cards that have the same keyword in because they will roughly go together. They kind of work by themselves, but they also work together. You don't have to think in massive, like, oh, like, do I need, like, 5 lands of this kind versus, like, 10 of another? You can just be like, you know what? These monsters look cool and they work together. Done.
I think with Yu-Gi-Oh! They go, like... And I think this is why they have such a ridiculous... sort of image where it's like what like it, you know, like literally as I played it I was like I don't understand what the hell is going on, because instead of like fine-tuning the balance of everything where like everything in Magic like they tear things out every other week and like things get like fine-tuned to the amount of land cost and there's like 8 different exceptions to everything that they say to make sure it's not too strong, whereas with Yu-Gi-Oh! They're just like we'll make everything stupidly powerful to the point where like nothing is too powerful because it's all too powerful. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
there is a forbidden and restricted list. To be
no.
clear.
I'm sure there is because
list,
there will be cards that literally break the game, which you do have to take out. But I think on like a sort of minutia level, like they don't worry too much about like from an outside perspective, they don't seem to worry too much about like exact like balance details.
Yeah,
it's more just about like let's just make everything powerful and then you know. It's just what brand of powerful you want to be, you know? Which I think is what leads into that idea that you can just pick a card that you know is good and just build a deck around it by searching keywords, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's literally a set of 5 cards where if you hold all 5 of them in your hand, you just win.
Yeah.
It's like, you could feasibly draw those on your first turn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your opponent has.
I've seen it happen to one of my Twitter mutuals.
It happens in the first episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime as well, which I found myself watching, so I guess they've got their hopes up pretty good.
You're in that.
The voice acting has aged poorly. I suspect that even at the time it was not great, but yes, it's very like early noughties anime dubbing. But yeah, that's me playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I plan to play more Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm enjoying it, and that mobile version will come out at some point, and I'll probably play more of it then. Other than that, I've not played anything else. That's me. I've watched Too Hot to Handle, and I played Yu-Gi-Oh!
That sounds like a great time.
A caricature of myself. Wheels.
Oh my god! Do I get to?
What else?
Okay, all right. I went to Dice Saloon recently. The
Brighton's own
Brighton Board Game Cafe / shop, which we are big fans of on the channel. Lovely shop. It's in like a sort of converted old church. It's a really cool building. It is an
amazing building.
It's really cool.
And I was with some friends, so we were playing like some really like sort of light party games. And I played Just One for the first time, which I know we've spoken about before.
You never played it before?
I've never played it before.
I was sure we played it on the channel. Huh.
I don't think so. I think maybe it was like we played added to a list of games we could have played on a party game stream or something, you know?
Maybe I played it with like Lolies and Mian at some point
yeah.
elsewhere, but...
It might have been like a You've Never Played or something. Or...
Maybe, yeah.
Because
it won the Spiel des Jahres like a few years ago, I think. And at the time, I was quite like, oh yeah, like
grumpy
it doesn't seem like much of a game. And I still don't think it's
revolutionary.
Maybe worthy of winning that award, but
I've
warmed to it considerably since.
I think it's a fun puzzle to have with friends. You know, like we played quite a bit of it, and like I don't think we even bothered with the scoring. We were just playing it because it was fun.
It's one of those. It's like those kinds of games where at some point, like Love Letter, you just stop counting.
Exactly,
it's like I'm just here for like the conversation around this.
Yeah, and that's what I really appreciated about it. And I also think that the like I said, like the puzzle of trying to find a word that you don't think anyone else would guess, whilst also trying to make something that is actually a good clue. For those who aren't aware, like, it's a really simple game. Somebody puts a card in front of them and picks a number, and that number will correspond to a word that they have to guess with your clues. It's a co-op game. You're all trying to guess, like, based on the like, I think the number is tenuously linked to the difficulty of the word, but
Yeah.
I don't really think some of the words are very, like, well balanced on the numbers, but whatever. So I will then have, like, a little whiteboard in front of me, and so on everyone else, and I'll write down a one-word clue, much like, you know, code names or something like that, where they have to read that and it'll give them a clue as to what they've got. And because we're all combining, you know, you've got, say the word was casino, someone might write blackjack or slots or poker or whatever, and when you turn them all round, you're like, oh, okay, cool, casino. But the gimmick is, if anyone ever, and that includes more than two people as well, if anyone ever writes the same clue as someone else, both of those, or all three of those, or all four of those, or whatever it tends to be, gets wiped out from the clues that the person actually sees. So you have to think of something niche so that you're not, like, doubling up, but also it needs to still actually be useful. Yeah, and it's really, I think it's genuinely, I had a really good time with it. I was like, when I walked in as the person who plays board games in my friend group, I saw they were playing Just One, and I was like, you know, and then we played, and I was like, you know what? And we played it for like an hour and a half, I think. Like, we were like, yeah, it's good. We also played Herd Mentality, which I think is in that very, very similar level of game, where it's just sort of like, it sparks some fun debates and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the points don't really matter all that much. Nobody cares who wins. But apart from that, me and Liv and Mian on Tuesday recorded a Let's Play of an RPG called Paradox Perfect, which is a comedy time travel / Mad Libs RPG, which is an absolute whale of a time.
Super fun.
And we played it with a very, very talented GM in Jeremy Cobb from Three Black Halflings, which was like a sort of crossover episode. That is going up, both parts. We've done 2 episodes. The first episode is us creating the world and our characters through like a Mad Libs thing, where it's like we're each giving, you know, like adjectives and verbs and stuff, and then it gets read out like based on the structure we pick. So we picked space opera in this case, and it was like the United Space Forces of Ohio are spreading communism throughout the galaxy, etc., etc.
And there are several loving monks sealed away.
Kicking was a thing, which you'll see more of as that comes out. But then we then use, this is the really fun thing, you then use those same adjectives and verbs to create your characters with, and you can't double up with other people. So like kicking was one of them, so I based my entire character around the verb to kick, and create someone called Kicking Keith. And then, and I was like, that's fun, you know, like that's a cool synergy. But then I wasn't prepared for how like far that goes, and it's a really clever design, because as you then start playing, your job in like the Paradox Perfect squad is to go back in time and fix people meddling with the space-time continuum. So like, you know, somebody goes back in time. I think one of the artwork examples is like they stop the assassination of like JFK or like Abraham Lincoln or something
Abraham
like that.
Lincoln,
Right?
I think.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln was the one, I think. And then it's, you know, like it's messing up the future time. So you do something called a chaos roll where you roll on a D12. I don't know why it's a D12, but there it is. And if it goes wrong, then the verb that you picked for your Mad Libs gets changed by the GM. So it's, I think in our case, everyone was a pastafarian. That was like the religion that was like going around as like the most popular thing. And it got swapped to like Tetris or something like that. So everyone was like worshipping Tetris blocks. And I'll try not to spoil too much of it. But the really fun thing, and this is the final way in which it works, is because those adjectives are also part of your character, if you fail on a chaos roll, it changes your character as well, because you're part of the future, right? So unless you manage to like succeed in the role, in which case you're the only one who realizes that things are different, then like you were a devout pastafarian, but now you're a Tetris block worshipper. You know, it's like it's really cool.
It is really good. The way the Tetris thing comes to light is also very good.
It's also just like a great action play session because Jeremy's a fantastic GM.
Jeremy's
It was just so much fun. Like I think it was probably one of my favorite ones we've done on the channel. And like I don't think that was all just because Jeremy's good at GM. Like I think it's a cool game. Like it's a really interesting design. It's super light. You literally, the idea is that there's no prep. Like you just turn up, you make your stuff, and you just see what happens.
Yeah.
But it's also just like there's just something about the way that I've never created a character out of words before, if that makes sense. Like I've got like concepts and stats and classes and all that kind of stuff, but just like create a character around mug. Like what's a mug character, you know, like go from there and then have to work that out, because you're also picking like you assign them to past, present, and future as well, which is really fun. So kicking was my past, because like I used to be a kick master. But now I've like tried to change my ways and become less violent and all that kind of stuff. It's really good. It's really good. Liv, you seem like you were having a great time as well.
I had a great time. Yeah, no, I was very intrigued by this because Jeremy is from Three Black Halflings, and they played that recently on the podcast with NADPod, not another D&D podcast, and there was something about like too many Kevin Costners or stuff like that. Yeah, it's called Crisis on Infinite Costners is what they put together. And I was like, how did this happen?
But now we've played it, I completely understand.
Yeah, exactly. I understand the paradox. But yeah, no, it was super fun to do. I think when Jeremy was introducing it, he was just like, this game thrives on chaos, so be as chaotic
literally
possible.
The whole point is just like make things go weird, like just get weird.
Sounds like the game for this team.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to watching this. Like it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Like since you all played it, you know, just been kind of like glowing with praise about it.
Yeah, no, it's
so I'm really looking forward to watching this myself, because it's fun to watch stuff on the channel that I haven't seen.
Yeah, and you can see it. You can check it out on Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT. The first part where we make all our characters, and you can also check out the second part where we actually play the session Sunday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I will say obviously this is like a really truncated version of a session, because we only have so much time in the day to record these episodes. So like your sessions may vary, but ours was very quickly resolved.
I love the way it was resolved. It was. We spotted our objective, and it was like, okay. It was very good.
It's just like one of the things you can do is you help people out, and you can add your traits to your dice rolls. So like obviously if I was kicking someone, I would add the kick trait, but you also, because you have all these other traits and they're all a little bit weird and abstract, it's just really fun like playing this game with the GM, where it's like, well, I've got the trait loving here, and I do love to kick. It's just like, you know, when you talk to someone, you're like, oh, can I use my strength stat to pick the pocket? And it's just like, what does that even mean? But like, because they're so vague, it is just sort of like, what about this?
And this kind of like, okay, I'll see what you're going with. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not designed to be like a rules tight tactical scenario system.
Yeah.
So.
And also our playthrough was thriving on mishearing things, which was very good. Like, for example, Wheels, you were a kick master in your initial discussion of your character, but then Jeremy misheard you as kick monster. The funniest thing I've ever heard.
What I liked about, which has nothing to do with the game, but what I liked is the fact that whenever someone did mishear something, it was like, okay, cool, that's canon now.
Yeah. Like my character's name, she was not supposed to be this person, but then she became that person.
I think we'll leave that one for the Let's Play.
Yes.
Because otherwise we'll spoil too much. But yeah, it is fantastic. Last thing I've been playing a lot of is Mini Motorways, which is a video game, but it feels very, very board gamey. It is a sequel to Mini Metro, which is like an abstract train game. Matt Jarvis.
I've played it. I didn't get into it.
Didn't get into it. Well, now here's the thing.
It was like, this is fine, but it didn't stick with me.
I liked Mini Metro. I thought it was very pretty and very satisfying, but I got bored of it very quickly. And
that was my experience. So okay,
I was like,
have my interest.
Okay, cool. Mini Motorways, which is the sequel, it's obviously about cars, is fantastic. It is like, it takes the core principles of like the way in which the travel works, which is like this simple thing of, here is a person here, they need to get to this point, and if they don't get there soon enough, then it builds up, and if something ever overspills, then you lose. How long can you go as the routes get more complicated and all that kind of stuff? But the thing with Mini Metro is the fact that, like, you can only do like straight line routes. So it's like, okay, well, you know, I'll go through these stations like this, because they're trains. They are just like, that'll do that, that'll do that. I'll make like a circle line here, and then we'll hope for the best. And then the passengers will like get off at one train and get off, you know, like using the tube or the subway or whatever. With Mini Motorways, instead of it just being like connect the dots, you have like a full tile-based road system where you draw out all of the traffic routes and stuff, and you can drop down roundabouts and... Hello, Rosie. Rosie's streaming at me now. You can drop down roundabouts and traffic lights and motorways and like all kinds of stuff to... Are you hearing this?
Vaguely.
Why are you screeching?
She okay?
Every now and again, she'll just come and shout at me for no reason.
While you're tending to Rosie, I will just say that James with a B has been a Dicebreaker Plus VIP for 7 months now.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, thank you.
So much. Thank you, James with a B. They also say, hi all, can't stay for long, just dropping in between meetings to say you all freaking rock. You rock, James with a B.
Yeah, you rock.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say hello to our special guest, Rosie, who is
Hey, Rosie.
feeding in her opinions on Mini Motorways. But yeah, no, it's like there's way more control in Mini Motorways. You can actually, and because they're cars, because they're not people who are just like teleporting onto things, like because they are actually cars, like they actually get congested. So you can see like where the routes aren't working and like what you have to like fold around and stuff, and it's just really cool. And then it has like rivers
It sounds
that you
like a
need.
squeaky seesaw.
She is kind of a squeaky seesaw, yeah.
Okay, cool.
They had like rivers that you need to build bridges over and mountains that you need to build tunnels through and all that kind of stuff, and it's really, really good. What is wrong with her?
Rosie, come here.
I think she's trying to find Toto.
Aww.
She's obsessed with Toto.
Oh, bless.
Is it the bedroom, Rosie?
Everyone is really agreeing with Rosie's points, by the way. Everyone in the chat is thoroughly engaged.
Hello,
Good
Rosie.
point,
Hi,
perfectly
Rosie.
made.
Meow. Rosie is absolutely right. Thank you, chat. But yeah, should we move on to the news? We've been talking
Let's
about
move on
games
to
for
some news.
an hour.
Hey, that's what we do. We talk about games.
Hell yeah, we have.
Yeah, we've got a few short news bits to blast through. It's not been a super news heavy week, but there's some interesting stuff coming up and out. Mostly to do with tabletop RPGs. So I wasn't on the podcast last week, but I believe you spoke about the Dark Souls RPG, so we're not going to belabor this particular news story. But it's going to be interesting. So last week they announced it would be built on the 5e engine, so that's D&D 5e. And this week, Steamforged, which is the publisher that obviously made Dark Souls the board game as well, they have come out and detailed just some of the changes that they will be making to the D&D 5e system, which is interesting because
we speculated that maybe that article wasn't necessarily planned.
It's quite short, and it's quite the phrasing of it is like, hey, don't worry, we're making some changes so that this isn't just D&D 5e. Because the response to hey, it's D&D 5e was, as you might expect from the internet, largely negative. Let's say mixed. Let's diplomatically say mixed. But yeah, people weren't super excited about the idea of yet another licensed RPG just being D&D with a different skin, which unfortunately has become kind of a trend over the last few years. So Steamforged have kind of said, hey, we're making some changes. It's built on the framework of D&D, but they basically said we tore it apart and then kind of put it back together with new bits in there. So take that as what you will. We haven't played it, obviously. We're kind of going by what they say. The kind of biggest changes that they've mentioned are they're introducing poise, or I think they're calling it position. So it's like stamina and poise, which are key parts of the Dark Souls video games, rolled into one thing, which is kind of like, it sounds like it functions a little bit like inspiration, but it's like a finite resource that you can use to buff rolls at points.
It's also your health.
Yes,
is the thing.
yeah.
It's like it's literally just it's your health and your stamina. So it's like you can use them like and your mana as well. Like you'll use it to cast spells.
Yeah.
You'll use it to improve your like rolls, like you said, Matt, and like it's also your health. So like if you use too much of it, then you'll die. So I think they're probably getting that from like stress mechanics from things like Blaze in the Dark and other games that use stress that for some reason my head is drawing a
like
blank
the Alien
on.
RPG had like
Alien
a Terror
RPG,
one, I think, that was similar. Where it's like it worked like adrenaline, so you could use more, but there was more of a risk associated as things got.
It's like a resource that it's dangerous to have too little.
Yeah, which is it's an interesting idea. Like I don't hate that idea.
Yeah.
The other things they mentioned are around magic. So magic is going to be more kind of akin to Dark Souls, in that you will like attune to certain magic.
I think they're getting rid of like spell slots and stuff. So
yeah,
it's basically like. I'm not sure why they're doing D&D, but you know,
this is kind of part of the question. Is like it sounds like they're making some, and they've mentioned death and rebirth, which obviously another big part of D&D. D&D. Another big part of Dark Souls is you die, you lose your soul. So that is in there apparently. If you die, your souls, so your XP, experience points, basically, you will lose. But they haven't really gone into a lot of detail about what that actually means mechanically. Like, are you going to be able to get that back? Like, are you expected to run through the same areas again? They've just kind of said, don't worry, it's in there. Like, yeah, the Dark Souls thing, we're doing that.
That, to be honest, that's one of the things that worries me about a Dark Souls RPG as a concept. Oh, Rosie. Just like the idea that, like, I don't think people will find it fun to trade through the same things. Because it's not like a video game where you just kind of like, you're challenging yourself, you know, you're sat alone, you're just doing it as like it's like, oh, I almost got there that time. It's, you know, it's like the DM just sort of sat there describing the same events to you and seeing how far you get. Like, it's weird.
I mean, so it's worth saying that we actually put together a list this week on the website of RPGs that aren't D&D based, but are inspired by Dark Souls. Obviously, they're not official Dark Souls RPGs. And there's a really interesting one in there. They're all great, like, interesting games, but there's one in there called Dice Souls by Chris Pizzette of The Wretched, and that has a really interesting replay mechanic in that when you face an enemy, if you die, when you face it again, you basically have a replay mark checked next to the name of that enemy. So if you ever encounter that type of enemy again, you basically get extra dice to help you overcome. So there is a benefit to, you're not necessarily walking the exact same like place again, but you're building up experience with each type of enemy, which is like a really cool way, I think, of getting some of that Dark Souls feel in there as well. It also has like a similar boss mechanic where the way you react to bosses have like a set list of actions and set responses. And if the player dies, they then learn one so that when they come up against it again, they have like acquired some knowledge in the same way as Dark Souls. But this doesn't seem to be taking that route. Again, we don't know the exact specifics, but it sounds more like a kind of more, I guess, conventional approach to, you know, tweaking around. But I guess, yeah, at some point the question is, why is it D&D 5e then? Like, they're keeping combat similar, I guess, and, you know, the broad framework is D&D 5e from the sounds of it.
Are there a lot of different spells in Dark Souls, or?
Yes, yeah. So
okay.
I guess it depends on whether they're drawing from all of the Dark Souls games or whether this will just be Dark Souls 1, because they're kind of tangentially linked in some ways, like there are recurring characters and kind of echoes of characters in the later games. But yeah, like there are, you know, there's pyromancy. Pyromancy is its own kind of spell system. So there are different types of spells, but also different spells within each thing. So yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do in that respect. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think more than anything else. I'm just curious as to how they go about this.
Like, as the D&D advocate of the show, like I think me and Wheels were like, "What do you think, Liv? Say something positive."
Quick, balance us,
please. And my main thought was kind of like, it doesn't seem like 5e would be the right, rule set for this to be developed in. But if they do something really different with it, then I'd be into it. Now that they have said we're doing something really different with it, it is very much like, why aren't you just making your own thing?
Yeah.
I don't think it's an argument about whether or not 5e is a good system. It's whether or not it's suitable, and it just doesn't seem to be. And it's
there are like as much as some of us can be less positive about D&D. The system itself is great for certain things. Like, it is a really good system for, crunchy tactical combat. Like, there are things in it. Like, there's a reason it's popular, right?
For example, if someone told me they were making a Diablo RPG out of 5e, I'd be like, okay, sure, right? That makes sense.
Dungeon crawls.
Action RPG with XP and like crawling through dungeons and leveling up your character and gaining new skills makes perfect sense. Got it. Understood, But with Dark Souls, it's like there are elements from that. Like, you've got the XP, you've got the leveling up and stuff, you've got the getting new equipment and spells and things, but that's not what Dark Souls is about. And it's like, I don't think that's what people are looking for. Like, or at least that's not what I would look for in a Dark Souls RPG. But
I just want to point out what Baddie Wrongleg said in the chat. You don't have to dislike mushrooms. Very good name. You don't have to dislike mushrooms or cake to see mushroom cake on the menu and know you don't want it.
Yeah.
Very well.
I think that is often the thing with D&D. It's like D&D as a game by itself, you can like it, you could not like it, that's fine. Like as a system. But like was just saying, it's like it works well for certain things, and sometimes like putting a square peg into a round hole, like it just feels a bit like it feels like a cynical marketing exercise. Of like, D&D is very popular, so is this a way of getting people on board in terms of like, oh well, I like D&D, so I can pick this up, because the idea of learning a whole new system feels a lot more intimidating. But that is a very cynical take. Like, there are many, many good designers that work on 5e based games that are putting in fantastic work, like coming up with original systems. Like, it's worth saying. But yeah, sometimes it's just a bit deflating to think, like, again, like our list of Dark Souls inspired RPGs, there are so many cool ideas that indie designers have taken from Dark Souls, made them, tabletop appropriate. And so the idea of them just being like, well, we're going to take something that already exists and kind of like shave some corners off, stick some bits on here and there.
It's like,
it just feels like, if you're going to do it, go for it, kind of thing.
I'm very sorry for the amount of noise in my background, by the way. And ironically, I'm the only one not recording my audio through Google Meet, so there's no cutout. It's just pure all audio. But Zoe's doing her best
to wrangle.
To try and fix the solution. I think she needs the loo, and the letter's a bit dirty. But the thing I was going to say was, and this is kind of a problem that I spoke about on the last podcast, we talked about this with like Steam Forged in general, is that I think the reason a lot of these IP games don't work very well and aren't very interesting when they're made by like studios licensing out their games to other studios is that the games weren't created because the designer really likes that game and saw something about it they liked and they wanted to, be inspired by it or turn it into something based on that. Instead, it was, you need to make something about this, and you've got a budget and a time limit. Can you get it done? And I think Steamforged are very good at getting it done. I don't know if they really excite me when it comes to the ideas that they present, And it's just like, if you want like a fairly accurate translation of a game into a tabletop game, it's like, yeah, they'll do that. Is it going to be the best thing you've ever played? Probably not. And I don't want to sound like mean or anything, but I think it's just the way in which that sort of business model they're currently in works is not really set up to create like groundbreaking things. It's like it's almost like a factory line, right? It's like, we've got this amount of time and resource to devote to making this into a tabletop system. Let's do that. Let's get it out. Let's use the game assets, and let's move on to the next one. And it's just like, I'm feeling a little bit deflated looking at all the stuff they're putting out and just thinking, okay, sure, here's the Resident Evil 1 game, Resident Evil 2 game, here's Monster Hunter, here's Dark Souls, here's X, here's Y. It's just like, all right, come on, and it's just like, it's getting a bit tiring personally, but we will see, as we keep saying. We'll see.
And I thought the Monster Hunter game was actually really good, because
I thought that was one of the ones that did best
Whereas
out of them.
Dark Souls, the Dark Souls board game, I did not enjoy at all.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that there were really good ideas in there, like there were some really promising ideas, but then when it tried to bulk out into a full experience, it kind of then fell apart, and some of that did feel like, oh, it has to have this because it's like a video game, board game. People will expect this.
Yeah, and it's also
like,
it's also got
that's a shame.
The Kickstarter curse as well, where it's like we have to have all the content to make all the stretch goals. You know.
Yeah, but we'll see. Like it'll be interesting to see what they do with it, particularly because as some folks have pointed out in the chat, I did mention this up front. A Dark Souls RPG exists, like an official one that was released in Japan. So there is a question of like, why not localize that? Like, I don't know what system that runs on. I don't believe it's D&D 5e, but it clearly exists. So at some point, would it have just been easier to localize rather than build like another, even if it's built on D&D?
I wonder if maybe they just look at them as different markets that want. Sorry, we're getting the litter out now. I wonder if they just look at them as like different markets that want different things.
Maybe.
Because well, I mean, like, you know, look at the video we did on D&D, that it just doesn't have the same impact in Japan as things like Call of Cthulhu do and stuff like that. But also, it depends if this game was like, was the original Dark Souls Japanese RPG put together via the actual studio, or was it put together via the publisher? And I think in this case, it might be more of a publisher thing, where it's like, you know, Bandai Namco or whoever the hell owns it now, we're like, we want to do this for a Western audience, rather than, hey, we're a tabletop studio, you make Dark Souls, can we make a game? You know, like with the original designers, with I keep forgetting their name. Sorry, the Dark Souls designers
from software.
From software, thank you. Yeah, where it's just like they've actually gone straight to them, sort of thing. Because I think if it's a Japanese tabletop company and a Japanese designer, it's a bit more of a one-to-one connection. But
Tell you what would have been cool. Get an indie designer that's already made a Dark Souls inspired RPG, take those mechanics, put them together, reward indie designers, let them step up to the mainstream. But hey, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on from Dark Souls onto another RPG one that I just wanted to quickly mention. A while back, must have been last year, we spoke about Inspiriles. Inspiriles?
I think that's right,
which was an RPG from Rich Oxenham that is designed around teaching sign language. So ASL, BSL, American Sign Language, British Sign Language. And it was kind of like a fantasy RPG, like relatively familiar setting. You play as, I think, descendants of Arthur and Guinevere, known as Pendragons. But the cool thing about it was that the magic casting system was built around using actual sign language gestures. And they've announced a sequel, which I think is on Kickstarter now, or it's coming to Kickstarter, called Overisles. And this one sounds even cooler because it's basically taking that signing system. I can't remember what they call it. They have a specific name for like using the gestures, but they apply it to now a setting that's kind of in the clouds that reminded me of the Zelda game Skyward Sword, which isn't a great Zelda game, but has a fantastic setting. And they are introducing a new kind of mechanic that they compared to horse whispering, but using sign language gestures to communicate with giant magical birds that you can fly around in the skies. So yeah, it seems very cool. And they have said that it will follow on from Inspiriles. So if you played Inspiriles, this will teach you more sign language. So it's designed to not just, you know, teach you the same phrases or gestures. But it is built around the same system in that as you play, you will learn actual like ASL and BSL. And they're working with like deaf consultants and other members of the deaf community to have like video tutorials and to have other materials to teach folks. And I think it just continues to be such a cool idea. I really want to give it a go. I haven't actually played it myself, but I've read through Inspiriles and I've read quite a lot about Overisles at this point. And it just seems like it's really well executed. It's really well thought out. It's just a good idea to begin with, but the way that they're blending together using real sign language and role playing is just fantastic. Like I don't know of another game like it. I've never heard of another game that teaches you sign language in this way. So I'm just like super chuffed it exists, and yeah, I hope they do more with that system and that kind of world, because it's just a cool thing to see.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite things when RPGs are based around something like unique, like that. Like, instead of just like, I've made an RPG system, therefore I need, you know, dice, paper, etc. Like, I love it when people are like, well, I want to make an RPG system out of like a tarot deck, or like with a Ouija board, or, you know, like I want to use something really specific So using that sort of framework, but then also like a real world skill that you can learn that is actually helpful for people is even more amazing. You know, it's like a double whammy. It's great.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. And to finish off our run of RPG news, I'm just going to give another quick shout out for Zine Month, which I think has kicked off now in places that aren't Kickstarter. So Chase put together on the site a roundup of some of the RPGs that are funding or crowdfunding for Zine Month. I wrote a story today about another one that's inspired by Taskmaster, which sounds great. It's basically like you can add Taskmaster style trials to like D&D or whatever fancy game of your choosing. It's called the Court of Exile, Court with a K. But there are just like a lot of really cool zines, like RPG zines and other game zines out there that you should go and check out. If you just search for Zine Month 2022, you'll find them. But like I say, Chase has also put together a roundup of 9 or so on our own website. So yeah, go check them out and support creators.
I've got a couple of people in the chat who are saying, which one of you has that annoying beep feeding into the audio? That's not a beep, that is my cat. I'm sorry. She is
wondered if it was
an
him.
absolute wild one. We don't know why. Zoe is doing everything in her power to stop her from screaming. We have changed her litter. We have tried to find her Toto. We just don't know what's wrong with her. But yeah,
little annoying beep.
Sorry, not much you can do about it. But yeah.
All right, let's move on via a tangent of news onto this week's segment. So this week, they announced that a new edition of Tsuro is coming out. If you're not familiar with Tsuro, it originally came out in like 2005, I think, quite a while ago. And it is, I guess the best way of describing it is it's kind of like Snake if it was a multiplayer board game. So you place tiles and the tiles have lines that create paths. And you move, as you place each one in front of your marker, which is like a stone, it moves along the path. And the idea is to basically just outlast all of the other players. So if you connect one that connects to you, but also them, you both move. But if you hit the edge of the board, you're eliminated. And if you hit another player's piece, you are both eliminated. So it's kind of like Snake. And it came out, like I say, it came out in like 2005. It's been around for a while. I think there's like a VR version that Wheels you played on the channel a while ago. It's relatively straightforward. The components are relatively simple. It's cardboard tiles, like small little markers with dragons on, and a tile with a dragon if you exhaust the stack, stuff like that. I looked it up this week because I was writing the story. It costs about 20 quid to go and pick up.
Yep.
They are releasing a luxury limited edition that costs $350.
Oh boy.
It is the most kind of over-the-top luxury edition I've seen in a long time. It swaps. So instead of a rule booklet, you get a bamboo scroll with the rules on. The cardboard tiles are now like stone engraved tiles. Instead of the dragon tile, there is a gold statuette. And there are individual models for each, like metal pawns instead of like the little identical stones that you had before. It is unbelievably over the top.
But like in comparison to the Ticket to Ride Super Luxury Edition or whatever, which looks like absolute crap. Like at least the Tsuro one does look like pretty bougie. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but it's also like almost 3 times the price. Bear in mind, like everything, you know, in comparison. But yeah, so as part of this, so they're releasing this. I don't think they've given a release date yet. They've said they'll do one run and that's it. So it's not like it's going. You know, don't expect to see this down your local board game shop. It comes in like a wooden box as well. Like it is so kind of amped up in terms of like opulence and extravagance.
I want it.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're sending us one.
I want it.
No, not that I know of. So as part of this, I wanted to generally like ask an open question to folks in the chat and to us here chatting. Like, what's the most you've ever spent on a board game? Was it worth it? But also, if you could take a board game and just amp it up, you know, let's give you a budget of $350.
Oh, you know. Budget? I don't think we should have a budget.
I know.
I think we should
Okay. The sky's the limit.
Thank you.
But I also asked this on Twitter as part of kind of plugging this podcast, and we had some really interesting responses in terms of what people had spent on board games. So we had people say they spent like 120 120 quid for like a special edition of the Fallout RPG, 180 to 200 quid on Rising Sun, Twilight Imperium for 100 quid. That's just how much that game costs.
Yeah. I was about to say a lot of those are like Kickstarter add-ons, but
someone also mentioned they'd spent over £900 on X-Wing miniatures.
Oh my god.
So there's like people can spend a lot of money on games. Like that doesn't necessarily just mean a game by itself either. Like there are obviously expansions and packs and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, first question for us here, and if you're in the chat as well, let us know. But like, what's the most you've ever spent on a game? And after that, we'll quickly come up with our pitches for amped up luxury versions of games.
Speaking of pitches, apparently it wasn't Rosie that was making the noise. There was a bit of feedback on my mic, which it seems like I've fixed now, so sorry about that. Also,
classic blame it on the cat.
Rosie has been slandered. She's already sent me summons.
Suing for libel, yeah.
She's not an annoying beep. She's not.
Look, I went last on the game, so I'm going to go first here. I have an idea for this. I think, and this is, I'm going to go slightly out of the box already here, but this is a board game that would be turned into an immersive experience that could be rented at like we did the like AR cart thing that Liv and Wheels went to. Chaos Cards? Yeah, Chaos Cards. Yeah. It's that kind of vibe where it's like you go to a building, like an escape room, you go to a building and then you go there for like a day and it's like an amazing experience and then you go home. But you are playing a board game and that board game is Twilight Imperium. It is a full immersive sim Twilight Imperium where like the rules are the same, but everything is treated as if it's real. So like you choose your fantasy race or whatever, and then they give you an appropriate outfit or like accessories and stuff that you could wear. And then like as well as being in a room that has like refreshments and stuff available, so obviously and a toilet. So you've got like the things that you need for playing the game. There's this elaborate like holographic table that shows the whole galaxy that you're warring over. So instead of it just being little tiles that they put down, like there's an actual dedicated display that you are like pushing around units on like a war room, and it's got like a dark ambient atmosphere and custom music and like smoke machines and stuff. Imagine Matt.
You know what? I would be down for that solely because I feel like it would be a way I could convince my friend group to play Twilight Imperium again.
But that's the thing, though, right? If you're going to play a game that epic, you might as well go all out. If you're going to spend that long playing a game, and yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think that's achievable as well. I don't think that's like
that's
it would
not
be expensive, but I don't think that's out of bounds.
I can see it. I would say so. The most I've spent on a game is probably Mansions of Madness because we own all the expansions for it. So collectively, it's probably several £100. But that's spread over the years because they were putting one out each Christmas. So Sarah and I would pick it up at Christmas and then play it through the Christmas break. So it was like the initial set was like 80 quid, I think, when we picked it up, and then the expansions are about 50 each. So each Christmas it would be like our Christmas present to ourselves, and then we would play it. And we've got a time out of that. We've painted the models, we've really we've played it a lot. But what would I amp up? Yeah, the Ticket to Ride Premium Edition, the 15th anniversary edition that I did a video on and wrote about for the site. It was disappointing. It really was.
I will say, as a train game aficionado, I'm expecting you to pick. When you go on those little kiddie trains. Like, imagine that scale of train board game.
That would be good. I was actually thinking, could you play Monopoly, but in an actual, like, miniature village or model village?
Someone says $1 billion Monopoly that contains actual houses in the
Oh, that's good, yeah. I mean, that's all the deserted houses in London that are just owned by millionaires. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what else could you just really amp up? I mean, arguably, you could play Downforce with actual cars and you just select the spot you move to on the thing and it moves automatically on like a rail.
I think the the key here is that you can't just like if it's a game about racing cars and you just race cars, like that's just racing cars.
Yeah.
You've got
If
to
it's
still
no
be, like,
longer a
fundamentally
board game.
playing the board game.
But you could break that. You could break it into, like the cars at Legoland that you drive around, that kind of thing, and you select it and it moves, and you see like the heads-up display.
Yeah.
So you're still doing the actual game, and you're betting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can sit inside one.
I mean, camel up as well. Let's stack some real camels.
Camel up with actual camels. No animal cruelty here, please. Let's say they're robotic camels for the sake of, Liv.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on.
What are you thinking? What's
Well, first of all, I was thinking of a robotic camel that just opens its mouth wide and says, "Do not be alarmed, I am a camel." That's what I was thinking.
There is no need to be afraid.
Please stack me.
Promise, I love it.
Oh, now I'm thinking of those weird dog robots that keep falling over all the time.
Oh god, yeah, the ones used by like the police in New York.
Yeah. But yeah, so mine are both very LARP based. So number one, probably harder to achieve, maybe. A big group of friends come to a miniature village for a few days, and everyone takes a drink. And one of the drinks was laced with werewolf serum.
Oh my god, real life werewolf.
Werewolf. So like the werewolf serum itself doesn't make you attack other people or anything. It just makes you, I don't know, gives you insomnia.
It makes your hair grow.
Gives you insomnia. And you compulsively bark every so often. And then you go around and then you you go through doggy doors to people's houses and
it's like, why does everyone in this village keep getting attacked by werewolves? Well, we probably shouldn't have put the werewolf flaps in there.
The doggy door was the doggy flap, the werewolf flap.
That was our first mistake.
At some point, the whole door would just be flap.
Yeah,
like a kind of cartoon Looney Tunes cut out of like a werewolf running through it.
Werewolf go here. And then you're in. It would be quite terrifying though, because you're like, oh, I could be visited tonight.
That's genuinely terrifying.
Yeah,
even if it's your friend with a serum rather than an actual werewolf, the idea of just being jumped.
Someone in the chat suggested a Dead of Winter LARP as well, which would be terrifying, but also really flipping sick.
They do like airsoft stuff with zombies.
Yeah,
don't they?
do.
Like, there are like zombie kind of things where they have actors play zombies and you paintball them or whatever it is.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Yeah. But yeah, so if you are visited during the night, it's just your friend walking through the big doggy door and being like, gotcha. That's it. And then you have to play dead for a while. Not the most thrilling.
Yeah, no, you're really selling this one.
Yeah. Anyway, option number 2 is, okay, I have a more reasonable version of this one, but I have 2 versions of it. One is LARP based. Number 1, this one is luxury box extends out into a big old mansion. It's Betrayal at the House on the Hill. Extends out. You've got all the little bits and bobs,
like a doll's house kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, like a doll's house.
Good.
Yeah, like you know, there are like buttons you can push where like the floor goes through and stuff like that, and it's just kind of a weird mousetrap scenario.
I will say, when I was a kid, I had a pop-up book that popped up into an entire board game, and it was it was a book like this, and as you opened it, it like turned into this circular roll and move like haunted house style board game, and it was really cool. Like, it was really impressive. I don't think we ever played it, but it just looked really cool.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's doable. Yeah, I think, you could like mix some of the haunts into that kind of structure.
I got it from the Waterstones in Watford, Matt.
The
Waterstones in Watford. The Watford Stones.
I remember that it was the Waterstones, and that's not like a football team. I don't know anything about
the Watford Waterstones.
I don't know.
They're all very well read.
Yeah.
But also the LARP version of Betrayal of the House on the Hill. Basically a murder mystery kind of thing where you go away for the weekend. But one of you is given a secret betrayer card. It's basically the werewolf one, but this time you're given a little card instead of a werewolf serum.
I think that could really work, because you could kind of make it a bit like a big game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
But one of you turns at a random point and there are all kind of obstacles and so on. I would be very down. And then it's kind of combined with the like stay overnight in a like
What
haunted
if it
house
was
thing.
like an escape room, but then, like you said, halfway through, someone turns into someone who's trying to mess things up for you?
Yeah, trying to stop you
Oh,
escaping.
that would be
That would be
sick.
good. But what happens when, okay, so I can see, like, if you're just in the corner, like, I can't do it, like, then that would be a very betrayer thing. But when people find you out, are you just like, smack
they
you
throw you in a room with dynamite, like in
Yeah, but it's not hidden role in Betrayal. So like, if one person gets like special powers given to them via the people who are running the game, and then they get to mess with things like, oh, I'm going to turn the lights out in this room so you can't see you, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. Would be really cool. I was just thinking, if we're doing LARP stuff, we should go to an actual LARP and get everyone to dress up in like coloured costume armor, and then do a life-size Warhammer game.
I mean, that is pretty much LARP.
Yeah, but no, but it's
Depending on the
literally
LARP you go
one
to.
commander on each side. It's like, all right, you lot move 6 meters forward, and then I'm gonna roll some dice. Okay,
God.
8 of you get to punch the other ones in
If
the
you
face.
thought Warhammer was slow, Warhammer LARP, 17 months later, it's like a real world conflict, and it takes months and months and months to resolve.
Oh god. All right. Well,
there we go.
Should we do some questions?
Yeah, let's move on to some questions. If you're in the chat, feel free to drop us a question. We would love to hear from you. And if you're listening to this on Catch Up, wherever that may be, you can get in touch at podcast@dicebreaker.com. Drop us an email. Let us know what you want to know. Ask us anything. Why not? Or you can find us on Twitter @JohnDicebreaker. If you drop us a thing there, we'll also see it, and we appreciate them all. You might have to tell me if any of these got asked last week. Did this top one get asked, Liv? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
No, I don't remember that one.
Okay, cool. Liv, would you like to read this one from Charlie, please?
Absolutely. Charlie Etheridge Nunn says, what would be the worst video game license to adapt into a 5e RPG?
This is very on topic.
I'm
The
thinking
worst
like
video game.
Nintendo style, like Animal Crossing, you know?
but with combat.
Yeah. Okay, it's time for like, I don't know, KK Slider has turned up. It's time to initiate the combat initiative phase.
I've always wanted to fight KK Slider. Yeah, I mean.
You just have to pay
Big
all your
food.
gold to Tom Nook after every quest. Like,
Oh,
still paying
Tom
off that
looks like
house.
the
What
big
about
bad.
like a dating simulator?
That's basically what D&D 5e is anyway.
It's not though, is it, Liv? People play it like that. It is not.
It is what you
that.
make of it, Will.
D&D 5e. This is
I
what you
feel
do.
like platformers would be bad in 5e. Like anything that's very movement based, because like
Spyro.
5e good at many things. Movement, not really one of them. So like maybe like Mirror's Edge wouldn't be great. It's like you roll
But
to
again,
vault over a wall, then you roll to
I think
wall
like
run. Then...
there are bits in Mirror's Edge where you do like parkour, or you get in a fist fight, or you know, like there are enough actions that you could assign to all of the skills.
But it would be so. It would just suck
It would be
all
bad.
the momentum. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but it
or
wouldn't.
Super
It
Mario
wouldn't be
World,
hard
you
to
know.
make. You know,
It's like you go to land on Ogumba's head and you have to roll for damage.
Mario 5e says.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Tetris says Paddy Wronglegs. Oh my god.
But imagine it. So you mentioned platformers. So, but like it's Spyro. You're just running around trying to get like gems or whatever, and there are a bunch of adventurers just running around trying to kill you because you're a little dragon.
Dragons and dragons, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a perspective shift, you know.
Yeah.
To be fair, Crash Bandicoot also would be very bad in 5e. Because you've got one move and it's spin.
Spin, yeah.
Simply Dave suggests
You spin.
advanced D&D Wordle.
I mean, there are a number of RPGs that are inspired by Wordle coming out. So
Oh gosh.
you know, people are doing it. Yeah, someone also suggests Hitman, which
I was thinking that's not going to work. Like you would be able to
Again-
do a lot of stealth stuff, but
Again, I think Hitman is just like actually enough to work in 5e. I think again it would be terrible, but I think it's easy, you know.
Yeah, I guess you throw to hit someone in the head with a fire
Exactly,
extinguisher,
yeah.
or it would. I guess it would be the like you'd just be casting disguise self every 5 minutes.
Yeah. you have so many disguise kits.
Yeah.
Disguise stuff will be good though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're taking away from. Okay, let's flip this on its head. What would be a video game that might work in 5e that's not one of the ones we've already mentioned?
Yeah,
Baldur's
except
Gate
Diablo.
3.
Baldur's Gate 3 literally is.
Oh yes.
I know.
It's a bit of a cop out.
I know.
You nailed it. Okay.
Joke wheels.
Desert Croft says Hitman using the Blaze in the Dark engine would be sick though. I can't talk about it, but there's an engine that I am aware of that I think would actually be working really well as a Hitman game. I don't think I would be able to email them and ask though, because I'll probably violate some kind of contract.
Also
Doki
Felicia
5e
says Doki Doki 5e, yeah.
Games that would be really good for 5e. The problem, I think, the problem is it's like there's so many games are based on D&D that it's like
this is
those,
true.
you know,
Yeah.
like,
And really, you're talking. It's like computer RPGs. Like it would be like a Baldur's Gate alike or something of that ilk, right? It's because they are just so rooted in that. Like Fallout would probably work as a 5e thing, like original Fallout, because they're just all built on that kind of idea.
I think the Red Dead would be a really good one.
Really? That's interesting.
You could run around, being part of your little cowboy gang, and you can barter, and you can you have shootouts.
Take the magic out. It's got a similar vibe of like getting into hijinks around the world kind of thing.
And particularly Red Dead 2, because there are some very slow parts of that game where you are just cleaning your guns, and like D&D is not a very slick engine when it comes to doing literally anything. It's like roll for everything. So I think it would match that kind of like very slow approach to things. It's like, you want to clean your gun, roll for it. You want to like pet your horse, roll for it. Yeah. Oh, you petted the horse too much and just like chopped its head off with a bare hand.
Oh, you accidentally shot your foot. Oopsie.
Rolling a crit.
Matt, you joke, but the amount of times I accidentally hit the punch button when I was trying to mount my horse in Red Dead 2.
Yeah, no.
So like that is a 1-to-1. We've got another question here from Retro Futurologist, who has been a member for 6 months. Thank you very much, Retro.
Yeah, thank you.
Who says, do we have a CMON counter? And if so, what total does it currently stand at?
So this is, come on, or call me or not. I refuse to call them CMON.
CMON.
You did it.
I refuse.
CMON.
So I don't know if this is just referring to like the number of Kickstarters that they've done.
The number of times we've said.
The number of times we've said CMON. Or come on.
This is...
Alex Meehan sometimes just says it just to wind me up.
Yeah, I don't know if this is supposed to be a very open-ended question. I think it's just a question.
Would you say it's in the 30s?
I would say, no, we've been doing this podcast for what, like
93 episodes.
93 episodes. I reckon it's at least on like 100 and
a couple of hundreds maybe.
Wow, like a lot of semen.
Imagine. Liv.
I said it. I said Simon. That's what I said.
Oh Christ.
Any questions for us, folks?
Sam Pauly says, would Kingdom Hearts work well or poorly? I can't tell. I guess this is for 5e. I don't think it would work very well. I mean, in some ways it would work well because the Kingdom Hearts games control very badly as platformers. So if you're looking for something that works very poorly as a platformer, D&D has you covered. So in that way, they are kindred spirits. But I don't think it would work. Like, you've got magic and you've got summons, so I guess you've got some kind of, some system there. You can summon Dumbo if you so wish, or the genie.
I was like, I don't remember this in 5e, but no, you're talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I'm talking about Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
But those games are very floaty in a way that's like, I don't think would work. And you're just like hitting stuff again and again with a big key. basically the story of Kingdom Hearts. Hit thing with key.
Hearts is wild.
Everybody,
Yeah, I'm
everybody
not
is
sure there's
sad.
any good elements in Kingdom Hearts, to be honest. But
Tell you what, the best element of Kingdom Hearts is that Donald Duck is legit. Yeah, Nathaniel Levy's beat me to it. Donald Duck, in the lore of Kingdom Hearts, is the most powerful magic user in that universe.
I love that Donald Duck's been given that platform. He is my fave.
Yeah,
so.
by extension, makes Donald Duck the most powerful magic user in both the Disneyverse and the Final Fantasy universe. So
he is the Mordenkainen of Kingdom Hearts.
more powerful magic user than anyone in Star Wars.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a big whale. That they go inside.
Oh, the whale's terrifying. No.
Look, you can't keep doing this. Say hello to chat.
Well, at least she's being
Hello,
quiet.
chat.
I love the way cats just hang.
Yeah. Yes. All right, I think that's the questions we have. And to be fair, we've run a little bit over, so that regardless, that's where we're calling it today. But yeah, if you have any more questions for us, drop them in chat. We'll save them for next week, or email us podcast@dicebreaker.com, or stick them on Twitter @joindicebreaker. But for this week, that is the Dicebreaker podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you've joined us live, we'll be back next Friday, live each Friday from 2 p.m. GMT. Or, of course, you can catch up after the fact on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. But for now, thank you for being here, Liv Kennedy.
Thank you. Emails for me.
Yes.
You beat me to that.
Thank you, Wills.
Emails, you're very welcome.
I've been Matt Jarvis. Thank you for listening. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there. And before we meet again, have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Bye. Jingle, jangle, holly, bye.